Hey, everybody, welcome back to Practical Liberty. My name's Henry Bingaman. This week, I have on a copywriter. I just got to meet through Brian Curts' mastermind, and he has a kind of interesting story arc with his career. So, Jack Turk, thanks for coming on, man.
Oh man, Henry, it's so great to be here. I love talking to you and meeting you earlier, so this is fantastic.
The first time that we actually talked, you said, Hey, I'm doing this summit and I have a bunch of copywriters and Tim Allen coming on. So I was like, wait, Tim Allen, like the guy from Over the Fence? Like, what are we talking about? So can you tell the story of how you met him?
Way back when I went to college early on, like many, centuries ago, I was going to go into paper science. And I got a scholarship for paper science, which is like chemistry and that kind of crap and math and everything else. And while I was there, I saw this ad in the student newspaper. Are you funny? Can you be funny? I thought, well, hell, I can give it a shot. What the heck? So I took the little test and sent it in, and I wound up doing radio comedy shows for the student radio station. And we performed. We did like about a dozen of them over a couple of years, and that just changed my life because I realized I really wasn't into doing paper chemistry. So I changed majors to English with a creative writing emphasis and got into that. But one of the guys in our little comedy group actually did pretty well over time was Tim Allen. So I actually appeared on television with Tim Allen. I think it was like 1977 at some crappy 1 o'clock in the morning bogus TV show. We appeared. Honestly, this guy, it was called, I think it was Up Late with Doug Ekman was the name of the show. And all he did at 1 o'clock in the morning was pan a camera around this little studio and play music. That's it. And so
Sounds like, yeah, just filler stuff, right?
yeah, so we approached him and said, "Hey, how would you like to have some skits and stuff?" He said, "Sure, let's just do it." So I wish I had the video of that, but
Oh,
no, it
that would
was
be amazing.
yeah.
So let's talk about the arc of your career. I started copywriting at 22 years old. I'm one of the only people that ever starts that young actually
Wow.
writing. You had a different kind of beginning. I mean, comedy is, first of all, a hilarious start. Kevin Rogers also started in comedy. It seems like it's Ian Stanley is a comedian that also does copy. So kind of talk about your arc and I guess what each different career path you went down led you to, how you
Okay.
got to copy.
So I graduated. I had this degree with English as a major and mathematics as a minor because
Okay.
that was the minor I had with paper science. And I thought, what am I going to do with this? And I remember going to the Michigan Employment Security Committee, whatever, Employment Commission, and asked the counselor, what should I do with this degree? And he said, well, maybe you can flip burgers. I don't know. So that was really encouraging. I wound up getting a gig at like a local data processing software company, and I eventually wound up doing technical writing for them. That was right
Oh,
when systems started going online, so they needed user manuals. So I started writing user manuals, and basically that became my career for like a whole bunch of years. I was into documentation and user manuals, and I wrote documentation and user manuals for a bunch of different software companies all around the country.
thrilling work.
I'm kind of a boring technical guy. I like, and I think logically, like step one, step two, step three, and I can
Sure.
divvy up stuff like that. And I like doing that. I actually worked at cool places. I worked on a U.S. Army project to automate the MASH units, the whole combat support stuff for medical units. I did
Okay.
that in San Antonio for a few years, and that was really neat. I met a lot of really cool guys in the Army, and that was a great project. I really loved that project. Then I moved to another company that did early versions of AI. I mean, way back, but they integrated AI with databases. So it was like, I don't know, whatever knowledge tables and whatever. I forget what they call it. But I mean, I was doing AI back in the
What,
late
what,
'80s.
what kind of AI is that? Is that, I mean, AI, it's so funny because I was watching a promo. So I went down to Florida. I just took on a new project a month ago and I went down and to watch the filming for my good friend Jed Canty's promo and then another promo that I wrote. But Jed's promo, this guy, he talked about how he was doing AI in the mid 80s, late 80s. But it's like compared to what we view as AI now, he was like having automated like calculations run. It wasn't the way we think of AI. So I'm kind of curious, what was the AI like that you were working on back in the day?
At that point, it was they called it decision tables, and it was they had I think an inference engine and decision tables, and it let you do things. It let you manipulate the data in the database in ways that people couldn't do before that.
Okay.
And you could actually solve. I mean, the example they used of solving it, which is like was sort of the old the challenge of I believe the politically incorrect way of calling it is the cannibals and the missionaries. I also think it's the fox. You got basically got they're on different sides of the river. You got to get them across without the cannibals or the
Yeah.
foxes eating the chickens. You got to figure out that. So it would actually uncover and program that. So that's the kind of stuff it was capable of doing, even way back then.
Okay.
They could solve that kind of problem. So I bounced around. I did another gig in the East Coast, and then I got a job at Microsoft and moved
Right.
out to Washington State, where I've been here since 1989. And I worked a bunch of really fun jobs. I worked on the original multimedia stuff for Windows. I wrote the first help file for Windows Media Player, the first programmer documentation for Windows Video. Stood on stage with Bill Gates and ran the first demo when they announced the multimedia PC. Then I worked on interactive television stuff. I worked on Microsoft Network stuff. I worked on games. I worked on Age of Empires and Flight Simulator and some Xbox games. I did some game design for a while, and then I left Microsoft on my 50th birthday to become a full-time magician.
Yes. How did that come about? Because that's like my favorite turn in the story is corporate guy. You had a little comedy in there, and then corporate guy, and then all of a sudden it's like, screw this world. This is not fulfilling me. I want to do magic.
I
What was the
wanted
thinking there?
Well, I always did magic. Since I was a kid, I've done magic. And I kind of got into, I've been doing shows on the side forever. I mean,
Okay.
and I got into it in San Antonio. I created the character of Turk the Magic Genie, and I have like the turban, and I have it someplace back there. And like I do balloon, I mean, I can do balloon animals and stuff like that, and rope tricks and juggling and crap. And I've always done that sort of thing. And I saw this thing. This is kind of a copywriting world too thing. A guy named Dave D was sort of son of Dan Kennedy in Planet Dan and Dan
Right.
Kennedy's world. He created a magnetic marketing for magicians kind of program, and I saw an ad for it in a magic magazine. I said, "Oh, how to make $100,000 a year as a magician." I thought that sounds kind of interesting, and so I bought that, and then I got involved. So I bought all his crap. I mean, I bought all his crap, and I started booking gigs on my own because I always had like agents, and I got whatever gigs, but I learned how to do it myself. I learned how to do copywriting because that's what you had, marketing copywriting,
Yeah.
So I did that from that, and I just thought, you know what, I'm done with this. I want to go off, do my own thing, and off I went.
And so how did that go? How did your magic career, like, how long did you do that for, first of all?
Probably about 7 years. I was doing 200 to 300 shows a year.
I mean, that's a real career. That's a real
Yeah,
magician right there.
I was doing a lot of shows. Yeah, they're mainly birthday parties. I like them. It's just like, that's because that's the bread and butter. I'll be honest, unless you're in the rarefied few, that's the bread and butter for magicians, for kid shows, school shows,
Yeah.
PTA carnivals, that kind of crap. It's a lot of fun though. I mean, and man, I love doing it. I had kids, I had three girls, and I love doing magic. I mean, I love doing it for kids. I still kind of miss it actually. I do it for my granddaughters now, which is fun. But yeah.
Yeah, there was Penn and Teller did the masterclass.com. They did a video on there years ago now that got me really interested in magic. Just the misdirection and the showmanship of it actually really seemed to tie into the copywriting that I was doing. What I love about Penn and Teller is they tell you what they're doing and then you have to try to catch them at it. And
Hmm.
so I feel like copywriting is kind of the same thing. It's like I'm telling you what I'm doing, and here's the sales offer we're making, and every product has good and bad features to it, right? So
Hmm.
I'm trying to emphasize with as much showmanship as I can the good features and kind of get around the bad features, do a little misdirection, do a little I don't know, it's persuasion. So I'm just curious, what are your lessons from magic that you carried over to your copy career?
Well, it's really, there's a whole lot of psychology involved in magic. You really have to understand how people think,
Right.
and then how to direct the way they, view things and approach things. Really understanding people in your audience is so important in magic. You can't do magic for like a 2-year old. Well, because they don't know how the world works. They don't
Right.
understand. I mean, everything's magic to a 2-year old. You flip the light switch, light come on. I mean, that's magic.
Yeah.
I mean, but like when they start to get to the point where like when you just do something like you look over this direction, people's eyes will follow you. That's a learned response. That
Right.
doesn't happen naturally. And so just being able to move, I'm not saying manipulate people, kind of is, but just sort of being able to lead people in one direction or another, and by how you focus and the words you use, that's all magic. I mean, that's all
Yeah.
part of magic. And that's all part of writing copy
Well, this
and
is the
marketing.
one thing. It's one thing Dan Kennedy said that I saw him speak at a conference when I was pretty young as a copywriter. And he said, if you aren't comfortable manipulating people, you're never going to get anywhere in life, first of all, but you're not going to be able to write copy. We are manipulating people. You just have to take the negative like connotations out of it because it's not bad. If you didn't manipulate people, they wouldn't do anything. You have to manipulate your 3-year-old to eat his like salad, his vegetables. It's the world works this way. It's manipulation. It's just not as bad as people. It's there's good manipulation and bad manipulation. So yes,
Right.
I have no qualms about saying yes. I use copy to manipulate people to buy products. That's what we're doing.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, Dave D has a quote. He likes to say the difference between persuasion and manipulation is intent.
Okay.
And I kind of like that. I mean, my intent with magic is to entertain. My
Right.
intent with copy, I know this too with you, Henry. You don't do copy for products you think are crap or
I did
bogus.
one time and I've regretted it ever since.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, sometimes you got to do what you got to do. I
Well, I
understand.
was super young and they I was a supplement company and they asked me what ingredients to put in this. It was an erection pill for old men, basically. It's like, what ingredients should we put in that'll sell it? I was like, oh no, you don't want to ask the copywriter what ingredients to put in your supplement. But I needed the $5,000 for that project at the time. But that company's out of business. I'm kind of glad of it. Yes, I like the products that work. I want
Yeah, yeah.
products that help people.
Yeah, I mean, I work. I've been very fortunate. I've had maybe a few of them I thought were kind of on the edge, I suppose. But especially when I'm selling myself. So I got good at obviously I got good at selling myself as a magician.
Yeah.
Because I believe when I was talking to I get a call. The mom I talked to the mom on the phone. Like I honestly believed if they didn't hire me, they were going to miss out because
Mhm.
I was the best choice. I really believe I totally believe I'm like in the top 1% of children's entertainment. I'm a really good kids entertainer. I really am. I
Yeah.
mean, I love kids too, and I'm safe. All the good things you want.
Yep.
I feel that. So they'd be missing out. They'd be missing
That's
out. They get an inferior product. So I had no problem selling hard.
yeah. That's awesome. That's the best position to sell from. Is I literally am the best solution for you.
Yeah, yeah, and maybe again, I was very clear too that I wasn't for I didn't do the kind of act, and this is copy too. I didn't do the kind of act which was like if you wanted the artistic to music and the floating and like that kind of the artistic kind of act. I didn't do that. I didn't do the rabbit because I don't want to deal with this stupid rabbit. I just didn't want to do it. I don't want to deal with a rabbit. I don't pull a rabbit. I just don't do it.
Sure.
I of course made like, well, I've heard horror stories about the things rabbits have done, and like peeing all over the crowd, like, oh, I don't want that, biting children, So of course that was setting the buying criteria. Therefore, you want a safe magician, not one who brings a,
That's
creature into your home.
rabid rabbits. It's yeah.
Yeah.
You don't. Do you have rabbit insurance, ma'am? I can't do it unless your rabbit insurance is up to date.
Yes, unless it's up to date. Yeah. So yeah, I had no problem selling that in my copy. I guess the reason and again, the reason I got into copywriting was that some people just started seeing my web because I had a really good website,
Hmm.
on why you should hire me, and then people noticed that I actually had some guy. I don't know how he found me. He was a magician, but he's also in the finance industry, and he contacted, said, "Hey, would you write this letter for me?" And it was like the craziest, like as totally out of the blue. And I said, okay, sure, I'll write a letter for you. And that just kept going on, and then people started hiring me to do more and more copy. And Dave, I told you about Dave, who I learned about magic,
Yep.
but learned about magnetic marketing from. Well, I used to send him money. I was on his buying all his courses, buying all, getting masterminds, etc. I even bought his business to magicians. So that's actually another part of it. I was a marketing expert to magicians as well. So I basically took over from Dave
Okay.
and had that info business and learned that taught me a whole bunch about the information products business and how to do webinars, how to create products, how to do sales letters, email marketing, all that. That taught me. So I was doing magic shows and I was also doing the info marketing magicians at the same time. And I just kept getting more and more copywriting clients. And when Dave got hired at GKIC as the head of marketing, he brought me on board as a lead copywriter.
So are you mostly in the Kennedy world, or do you have other clients? Like what's your specialty in copy right now?
Oh boy, I'm not sure I even have a specialty. I don't. Most of my clients have been in the Kennedy world. I'll be honest. I do
Sure.
because I have like street cred in Planet Dan. I have because I was a head copywriter from 2012 to 2015, and then I just continued to do stuff for them. I ghost wrote. I'll be honest, magnetic marketing for them. I wrote in Dan's voice. I'm pretty good at mimicking Dan's voice, and a bunch of other stuff. And most of my clients are in Planet Dan, one way or another. I mean, I have one client I've had since 2015. I'm still working with. He's in the dental market, and
Mhm.
so I do a lot. I do a lot in the dental market. I understand dentists and their lives and their business challenges and that kind of thing. So I kind of enjoy doing that.
That makes a lot of sense. I mean, find a niche that there's, I mean, how many dentists are in America? Like you have a never ending supply of potential clients in that world. Like, why would you need
Oh,
to branch outside magicians, dentists, and Dan Kennedy? Like
yeah, yeah.
there's so many ways people, this is the thing that people don't understand when they start getting into copywriting. They think, where am I going to get clients? And it's like, you're going to find a niche. It's, well, a niche is going to find you eventually. Just
Mhm.
some little subsection of a world. If you're good and you make your clients happy, you will never run out of clients.
Yeah, I mean, there's plenty of clients. There's tons of clients. I just got a referral from someone else in the Planet Dan universe to write a book. I've written several books, ghostwritten a number of books, and the guy's a CPA, and he wants to do a book on a specific topic. And I thought, oh, hey, cool, I can do that for you. Yeah, no problem.
Yeah. So I guess how strategic or not strategic. I'm trying to think how to phrase this. Your rise in your move into copywriting from magic. Did you kind of made it sound like it just kind of happened? Like a guy just asked you to come out and write a letter for him. Did you plan to move to copy? When was the point where you said, I'm giving up magic and doing copy?
I always like writing. I mean, I've always been a writer, and I've written like when I started in radio, I did the radio scripts, and then I've written a number of really bad screenplays. I've written some stage stuff. I had like little skits performed. I've done, and I've done things for churches and stuff, and so I've written a lot. I did for Tim when Tim did Home Improvement. I wrote a number of spec scripts for him, which I was. You can get encouraged to death in Hollywood. So just understand that's just how that is. They told me it was the best script they'd ever seen from anybody who wasn't on staff. They still didn't buy it, but it still was okay, thanks, that's nice. But so I've always been a writer. I've always thought of myself as a writer, and I kind of always wanted to write the Great American Novel and get rich from that, but that never did happen. But the magic thing and the copyright, that it just sort of just fell in my lap. I mean, I didn't plan on it. I just sort of, I liked it though. I liked copywriting. I liked selling my stuff and selling myself and selling the stuff for magicians. And when I kept doing projects for Dave. And then when he got hired at GKIC, he said, hey, why don't you come on board? And that's kind of when I left doing the magic shows. I still did some. And that's just kind of when I just stopped advertising. I could still do them. It's just a lot of work. I was doing like 3 to 5 shows a day sometimes on weekends.
That's a lot.
That's a lot of work, man. Schlepping crap,
So there's so many directions we could go because most copywriters don't have this planned career. Like I don't know a copywriter who sat down when they were 7 years old and said, Mama, I want to be a copywriter when I grow up, right? It's something we all kind of just fall into one way or another. I don't know. You just had a very fascinating career trajectory. And you fell into it at a later age than a lot of people do. So I think there's a stereotype in copywriting that when people get into it too old, they're not any good at copywriting. And you see this because the people that they buy the AWAI course at 65 years old when they're retiring and they realize their Social Security is not going to make it. Mm-hmm. And then they try to, go work for Agora Financial, in the top tiers of the top tiers. And you're like, you don't understand anything you're doing. I'm just kind of curious, what lessons did you take from like Microsoft?
At Microsoft, I was one of the fastest writers there.
Okay.
I mean, I was a manager. I was like at one point it was called user education manager. So I had a team of writers underneath me, and then I bounced back and forth between a manager and I'm just a single contributor and stuff. But the average when you do I also was a project manager too. I did software projects too. So I had a varied career at Microsoft. I did a bunch of different things. One of the things though, when you're figuring out a copy, like a documentation project, and it has help, it has like a manual. Sometimes there's other stuff that goes with it, et cetera, especially with flight sim. Holy crap. You have to like lay out how long is it going to take. You outline the manual, like there's like 300 pages. How long is it going to take to write that? Well, the average for Microsoft Writer is like 1 to 2 pages a day. That's the metric. I was 7 to 10 pages a day. So I was 7 to 10 times faster than the average writer.
Wow. Yeah.
And that's one thing I took away from that is like, and I'm still like, I think a really fast copywriter. I'm extremely.
Yeah. I mean, your website is writekillercopyfast.com. So like speed is something you emphasize. So what is it about the speed? So I'm not the fastest writer in the world. Like I know some people that can write 10,000 words a day, and that's never been me. If I have 3,000 words in a day, it's been a really good fast day for me. Mm-hmm. So what's the secret to writing fast? Because I feel like it's always the inertia. The problem is not, it's getting started. It's not keep going. It's once I'm on a thread, I can keep going, but getting started is I don't know. It's painful. It's like I feel like you have to wade through this like sludge of like crappy writing till you get in the flow state and keep going. What's your kind of secret for writing quickly?
I think it with again with what I did at Microsoft and what I do as a copywriter, I think the key really is preparation. I don't say that like in a I can go into a brand new project in a day and output like a 16 page sales letter in a day. I think that's because I don't if I don't know the market, I don't know the offer, I don't know. You have to do the preparation. So the preparation work is critical. I look on writing, I look on everything. My perspective on this, taken from Microsoft, and actually in my course I talk about this. I look on this, you're not stop thinking of yourself as a writer. You're a project manager in charge of producing a marketing element.
Okay.
And that changes. And think of how that change for because then as a writer, how much baggage we carry with us as writers, thinking about well, there's Dickens, there's Kennedy, there's Halbert, there's Shakespeare. There's like you have all this baggage with the term writer. Okay, and as you're going through, as you're writing, you're carrying that baggage, and it's like that little nagging editor in your head going, "This is crap." Look, Kennedy would never written this. And that's always going on. And instead, if you think of it as I am in charge of producing a marketing asset, and I'm assembling it. I mean, who was it? Eugene Schwartz talked about copy is not written; it's assembled. I look at this as the process of assembly. I don't worry about. Sometimes I'll write start to finish. I know I talked to on the summit that I just recorded. I talked to Doberman Dan. Doberman Dan talks about he start boom. Front start to finish. That's
That's
how he
it.
writes. I don't do that. Sometimes I do, but more like I basically go through a process of assembling all the pieces like Lego blocks. And then I create all the different Lego blocks, and then I start sticking them together and make it flow.
Absolutely. My favorite thing is to actually start with the offer, like write what you're selling so you know where you're aiming at for the rest of the
Mm-hmm.
copy. So start at the end, make the pitch as good as you can. And it's going to change when you kind of know what you let into. But yeah, it is 100% assembling. It's not writing. I also don't think sentences are like written. I think they're discovered, if that makes sense. Like
Mm-hmm.
it's out there. You didn't invent any of these words. You're not the first person necessarily to put that sentence in that order. You discover the right sentence for the right spot. And it's the more you're in the flow state, the easier discovery is. But it's not, you don't have to think that you're creating. It's for me, it's easier to think I'm discovering than creating.
Uh-huh. Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think that's a great way of looking at it, man. The other thing I try to take with it, if you look at this as a project manager also, and divorce yourself from the notion you're a writer, you're not an artist, you're not an artiste, you're not waiting for language from the muses to come on down and bless you, you're generating an asset. I think getting it out there and getting it looked at is the key thing because you don't know until you test it.
Right.
You might think it's a great headline. You might think it's the most amazing headline ever. It can go out there and bomb. I mean, Kennedy used to do this all the time at his events. He'd like go through a list of headlines, which one won, and people would vote, and like I don't know, like 7 times out of 10, people are wrong. They're wrong. The consensus is wrong. The headline they thought was going to kill died.
Yeah.
So you just don't know. So why take that pressure off you? Get it done. Get it out there and test it.
It kind of depends on the context. Because so the last promo I wrote was a back end. So we're selling a $2,500 financial investing trading service.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to sell to 2,000 people max at that price point. So there's no statistically valid test. You have to go with your gut in that case.
True.
Like
Yeah.
it's people, it would be great to split test headlines, but by the time we found the winner, we'd already have sold to everyone you could possibly sell to. So but the nice thing about a back end is you've already built trust with the customer. So the testing is way less important. People have to realize the difference between front end where testing is everything, right? I have
Mm-hmm.
a promo that sold $140 million and it went through 70 tests or something on the
Geez.
headline
Yeah.
over 7 years. Because and constantly evolves. It changes over time too, right? It's not
Mm-hmm.
just the headline; it's the headline in that moment in time. But yeah, there's sometimes you have to get it right, but hopefully at that point you've built the trust, and
Right.
sometimes you have to test your way into it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And I think your point also that you talk about investing the time there. I mean, Brian Curts talks about this. Like what is it? 40, 40, 20. List the
The
list.
list,
The
yeah,
list. You just said building trust. The list. A list that trusts you. I think Ben Settle talks about this too. Like his list adores him. You got a list that adores you. You can throw anything out there with any kind of copy, and they'll buy it. Raving fans will buy anything. And the list is so critical. The offer is so critical. If you've got, like, again, Halbert talked about the starving crowd. You got a
Yep.
starving crowd. You toss a hamburger out to them, they're going to take it. It doesn't matter what you call it. You're like
Right.
hamburger du jour. Fine, I'll buy it. It doesn't matter. So those two things, we agonize so much over, like, a few things, like, did I put the comma in the right spot? Whereas if you put the energy in the list and the offer first, that makes the copywriter's job so much easier.
Yeah, this is the thing when I'm one of the top copywriters or whatever, but usually I win the most because I get to pick the best offers to write for. It's like I don't have to take these crappy first time, offers. I don't have to take something new if it doesn't look good. I get to pick like the client, I get to pick the list, and I get to pick the offer I want to write for. And this was I learned this from Gary Halbert when he did the Bensavinga 5000 seminar. He's like, yeah, I just pick the best projects. That's why I'm the winner all the time. It's because I just pick the best projects.
That's so true. I mean, and there's any copywriter out there who's ever had to try it. You can't gild a lily. You can't put lipstick on a pig. An offer. If you got an offer you're trying to sell, and this just ain't gonna fly. You're sending it to a cold list, and the offer sucks. You're hosed. There's almost
It's
nothing you can do with the copy. It doesn't matter
no,
how great it is.
yeah, that's back to Eugene Schwartz. It's you can direct desire, but you can't create it. It has to be there in the first place. So you
Hmm.
can't sell a bad offer. If people don't want it, they don't want it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you interviewed me and 20 some other people for an upcoming copywriting summit. So this is airing on, I think, January the 5th. So that'll be about a month from now, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So we'll have the link in the comments, in the show notes below. But can you talk about that experience? Because I've done a lot of interviews. I think you'll be like my 90 something interview on this podcast, but you did 26 in like a month. So
Yeah.
what was that experience like?
Oh, it was really cool. It was hard. I mean, I have, and credits to you, because you make it look easy, but it's not as easy as it looks. It's the first time I ever did this before. I've interviewed people before, but wow, I learned so much from it, and I really was what was so cool. It was just everybody was so cool. I was very fortunate. What a great group of people. I mean, you were great. Brian Curts. I interviewed him. Tim Allen agreed to be on it, which was so. That was just like kind of a wild hair. Honestly, I'll give my daughter, my middle daughter Rose, said you should ask him. Like, oh, come on, for a copy, yeah, yeah. I just had. Oh, I thought, well, he could talk about story. Yeah, okay, yeah. So, and I sent him an email, and he said, yeah, I'll do it. Whatever. And he was really cool. I mean, it was neat. Honestly, I don't get to talk to him that often. I mean, I don't, we're in different worlds and stuff.
Sure.
But I talk to him now and then. And that was really cool. Everybody was really cool, and I learned so
What
much.
what were some of your biggest takeaways? And obviously, you don't want to give away all the lessons, but the takeaways because it's one of those things I've learned is I do this to share the knowledge with the audience, but at the same time, I learned so much by interviewing people. So, what were some of your personal biggest takeaways from the event?
I think in terms of, like, if you want to have a client for life, it was Marcel who talked about this. Be a friend. I mean,
Yeah.
be a genuine, decent human being, and talk to them like they're human beings, and talk to your clients, treat them like friends and family. I mean, which is totally. I mean, a lot of people say, well, you make sure you're never late on anything, make sure you deliver product, make sure you have the highest rated, and should. Yeah, I mean, and she's good. I know Marcella's awesome,
Mhm.
but that other level of business that we kind of ignore, and that's just something I'll take with, at Microsoft. I was really a good project manager, but wasn't because I would, like, track everything in a spreadsheet and send emails, it's because I actually would go down and talk to people. I actually went down to talk to the devs and say, okay, what's going on? How are we doing on this? And I talked to the art team, the artists, go, how are we doing? And the writer, I talk to people in person, face to face, and, like, oh, how are things going? What's up? Da 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 da. And I think that's such an important factor in business that we just overlook.
Be a human, be likable. Yeah, it's amazing how far that will get you in life in so many different areas, but especially including business. It's people forget to be a human. They're like, people put on their money and business brain, and then they turn off their humanity, and it kills a lot of careers. And it's weird, but I've seen it happen over and over again. Like, I know this one lesson I learned from John Carlton early on, you kind of mentioned it earlier, is never be late, never, never, never miss a deadline. Dude, I can't tell you how many deadlines I've missed. And I don't sneak up on the client with it. Like I tell them, is like, dude, I'm not going to have this ready by Monday morning when I said I would. Can you give me till Wednesday? And as long as they like you, they're fine with it and you're communicating. But
Mm-hmm.
I have never been that copywriter that always makes the deadline. But
Yeah.
I've been the copywriter that they always like to work with. So it doesn't matter.
Right. Do they like working with you? Are you easy to work with?
Right.
Are you easy? Are you a jerk? I mean, if you don't be a jerk. I mean, gosh, what a great lesson. Just don't be a jerk. Heck.
Oh man. The product manager was talking to me about when we were filming, they had a copywriter a year or so ago that wrote the script for the expert and was just sitting there and filming, yelling at him for misreading sentences on a prompter. Now, I don't know if you've ever read a teleprompter. It's not the easiest thing in the world. The sentences need to be short. There's a certain way you need to write for it. But this copywriter was just so mad that his vision wasn't coming true from the expert. And he goes, hang on, get up out of that seat, put the copywriter in the seat, made him try to read the teleprompter. When he couldn't do it, he's like, yeah, now we got to rewrite it. So it's just you got to be easy to work with. You have to be humble. Like, do not think you're the know all, end all, be all expert. This is copy is a collaborative process. You might be the expert in writing it, but your client is probably going to know what works too. So you can't ignore input and be this diva. It doesn't work in copywriting.
No, not in the least. Everything you said is so true. Other things I learned. I mean, I loved one guy. I've known this guy for years. I did some work with him. He's in the golf market, and he talked about offers, and his thing about offers that I think was so important that we often think about when crafting offer is he started off with like, do you know the lifetime value of that customer?
Yeah.
And having that as the basis for like that is the starting point you come from in thinking about crafting the offer, because that gives you so much value in terms of that lets you know sort of how it fits in, how this offer fits into a long-term strategy, a strategic relationship. You're not trying to bite off the entire, let's say they're worth $10,000. You don't have to bite that off in one fell swoop. You think, and that gives you, what can you spend, like Dan Kennedy talks about, what can you spend, what can you invest to acquire the customer? Because that's really what he said, that Kennedy talks about all the time. You make sales not to sell product, but to acquire customers.
Right.
And thinking about that. So I thought that was a really good observation and really an insight that needs to be shared.
Yeah, that's one of those things is if you could spend more to get the customer, you're going to grow your business faster. It's just it's a fact of marketing, and it doesn't change offline, online. It's all the same. Whoever can spend the most to get the customer is going to grow their business the fastest. It's interesting though, because sometimes offers attract bad customers, and nobody likes to think about bad customers, but man, what was it? It was this scammy, some financial company did it. It was a scammy, like get free checks from the government type offer. If you invested in their newsletter, they were going to tell you how to get free checks. The FTC shut them down eventually. But I remember hearing that their customers were worth, so it was a $47 offer at the end of it was a free trial and then $47. And their average customer was worth like $20. They got a lot of people in, but they didn't even close them. Like most people refunded. It was horrible. You can get bad customers with a bad offer. So you really have to think long term about the relationship you want with the customer you're getting. This is not just you could do a lot of things to get them to enter their credit card information, but it doesn't mean they're a customer for life. And what you want is a good customer over time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It is an investment. You're making an investment, and understand what they're worth. I mean, I thought about this when I was doing magic shows. I mean, again, I was not the high end of magic. I'll be honest, I wasn't the high end. Birthday parties are not the high end of magic shows. I mean, maybe in LA and like parts of Hollywood, you can charge, $5,000 for a birthday party. I don't know if any magicians are getting that, but you'd bring on basically bring a circus into the house. I suppose you could do that. I mean, it's you like most into the basic market. It's like 200 to 400. That's it. Sometimes a little, there's a little variation, but that's it. I would do maybe maybe two shows. Maybe I'll might do the kid a couple times. Maybe the kid's got a brother or sister, but typically, so the average client's worth maybe $400 or $500.
Right.
That means I can't spend $500 to acquire the client. So that makes no sense,
And they're not repeat customers that often, I would guess.
Well, no, maybe once a year. I did a lot of shows. I had some families. I did like 4 or 5 shows for them.
Okay, well, that's good.
Yeah, Johnny liked me, and I had them. Sometimes I had them come. I had them as a kid. Sometimes they came back like 5 years later as a teenager, and they wanted me back. I was actually honored. That was kind of cool.
Yeah. for some reason, I had this long debate with the client when we were sitting there during filming. So I did his highest, or not highest, but one of his higher price back ends, and he has this mid range back end. And we sat there for like 3 hours and debated what was the difference between his front end and his back end. I mean, his main thing is value investing, right? He's just this buy and hold, find the companies that are undervalued, buy them and hold them.
Hmm.
Um, and then his back end is like buy and hold, but like lower cap, like lower market cap. And we just spent hours trying to differentiate this product. And eventually we figured out we just want to give them more access to him. So start a mastermind, start all this stuff, give them, it's still like this, it's still the same kind of trade recommendations, but give them more access. So it's kind of interesting to differentiate the differentiation between products, between sales. And I'm just thinking, did you have that when you were in Magic? Like, was there a $200 show and a $500 show and a $1,000 show?
Yeah,
How did you structure your deals?
I typically had like mostly I had two packages. I had like sort of the basic package. I had a couple. One was like you get some people just wanted a magic show. So I do a 30. It was also kind of by time. You need 30 minutes. You got a 30-minute slot. Okay, I can do a 30-minute magic show. That's it. Okay, kids will laugh and I make the kids laugh. And I also guaranteed your walls will rock with laughter. That was my guarantee.
Nice.
So I guaranteed that, and they did. They were loud. Okay. I also had like some add-ons. I had some upsells. I did goodie bags. I prepared
Nice.
goodie bags and so, and basically they were like little bags with some gimcracks and marketing materials. So I had like a little magic kit, little magic kit with instructions, and then like come see, hire Turk the genie for your party, and I got and that kind of stuff in there. And then I also sometimes did a balloon animal upsell. So I do balloon animals. I always say I can do 10,000 different kinds of balloon animal, and they all look like dog. But now that's if you want that, dog with long neck, giraffe, dog with long body, whatever,
Yeah.
it's all dog. It's all dog. Okay, it goes back to the Cambrian explosion. One design, everything goes. The other thing I did, I had an offer which was I would do the mat. Now doing illusions in someone's living room is not the easiest thing because you typically you have to do the birthday party show. You have to be able to adapt to any kind of physical location. I did them outside. I did them on
Oh yeah.
decks. I did them like in big living rooms. I did them in tiny little living rooms in front of the TV or in front of the fireplace where the kids were like, like basically a foot and a half away from me, that kind of. So you have to deal with it. But so doing illusions doesn't work. There's one illusion you could do, which was like the flying carpet, and it's essentially I paid like this is the most money I ever paid for a trick. I think I paid like $600 or something like that for this thing. And it's like a little illusion and it's heavy as hell. I mean, it's this big and it stands about, about 3, 4, almost 3.5 feet off the ground. And it looks like the kid is floating on a carpet. I
Okay.
mean, is it the most deceptive illusion when you're working in a tiny space? Probably not, but it really looks cool. And that's how I would sell it. Like, for another $50, I'll bring the flying carpet. Your child can float on the carpet and you'll get a Kodak moment you'll be able to treasure forever. And it does
Yeah.
make a cool picture.
Yeah.
It makes a cool picture. But boy, that thing was a pain in the butt.
That's cool. So that is interesting levels of upsells there. Yeah, I guess that it's cool how you can get creative with that and find the ways to kind of sell the business. So the upcoming copywriting summit, what's the name of that? Do we have a title for that yet?
Copywriting Summit. I think I think that's what it's called. I haven't at this point in time I have not seen the final website. They're still working on that.
We're gonna put it in the show notes here.
Yeah.
And what are the dates on that so people can to make sure they? I definitely. By the way, I'm going to this. I want to see. I love listening to other copywriters talk. I always feel like I learn something. Like it's valuable to hear what other people that have had success in this industry have to say. So what are the dates on that?
It's February 8th and it's run for 4 days.
So February 8th through
8th, 9th, 10th, 11th.
Yeah, beautiful. And then there's it's basically free, right? I mean, if you want to,
Yeah.
you can sign up for free, and as long as you're
Yeah,
there live to watch it,
you can watch all the videos. It's like I said, there's going to be 27 videos typically between 30 minutes and an hour.
yeah, I think we went 40 some minutes when we
Yeah.
talked.
All in that
Um,
range. Yeah.
And we had a great conversation, and I shared secrets you will not believe. You have to be there.
Absolutely.
All right, Jack. Thank you so much. This was a lot of fun today.
I had a great time. Thank you for inviting me, Henry.
Is there anything else? So Write Killer Copy Fast is your website. We'll put the actual registration page for the summit in the show notes. Anything else you want to share with people before we get out of here?
My life's little message is from a dream I had when after my dad died. I saw him on a golf course in my dream, and it was great because we were golfers. And it was great. And then I woke up and said, "Oh, that's sad." And then I went back to sleep immediately, and there he was on the golf course again. He's at the first tee, looking at all the golfers, and they're all the golfers in the carts. And he said, "Even in heaven, God loves exuberance," and that is my exuberance. You know what? If you live, live.
Beautiful message. I like it. Do it. Do it exuberantly.
Yes.
All right, everybody. Till next time, stay free.